All right, guys. So yesterday, Jeffrey Sachs went on Judge Napolitano's show to break down the total insanity of Trump's current push for regime change or flat out war with Venezuela. So they're going to start out here with a clip on Face the Nation of neocon warmonger Lindsey Graham, who demands land strikes in Venezuela, as well as calls for Maduro to flee the country. So let's go ahead and jump into this, and then we'll hear Jeffrey break down what this is actually about.
South Carolina opined on all this in a rather reckless and irritating way yesterday on Face the Nation. Chris?
We looked at the JAG manual. Preventative self-defense employed to counter non-imminent threats is illegal under international law. So if we are not at war and these suspected criminals pose no threat of imminent violence, isn't this potentially a war crime to be killing the people on these boats and then to be taking out a leader?
No, not at all. I don't know what manual you're referring to, but I know what President Bush 41 did. He took down Ortega, the leader of Panama, because he was involved.
I think he meant to say Noriega there, not Ortega, but
in drug trafficking, threatening our country. Venezuela is now partnering with Hezbollah. Hezbollah is running out of money because Iran is weak.
That's not new.
Partnering with drug cartels in Venezuela. No, it should have stopped. Here's what's new. You got a commander-in-chief that's not going to put up with this crap. We're not going to sit on the sidelines and watch boats full of drugs come to our country. We're going to blow them up and kill the people that want to poison America. And we're now going to expand operations, I think, to the land. So please be clear about what I'm saying today. President Donald Trump sees Venezuela and Colombia as direct threats to our country because they house narco-terrorist organizations. The leader of Venezuela is an indicted drug dealer in American courts. So, yeah, the game is changing when it comes to drug traffickers and drug cartels. We're going to use military force like we have in the past to protect our country. That's the new game we're playing, and I'm glad we're playing that game. And if I were Maduro, I'd find a way to leave before he goes in.
I mean, it really is amazing how little effort they're putting in to manufacture consent for a full-blown regime change war. I mean, the logic that they're using here doesn't hold up to any sort of muster, right? They're saying essentially Americans are dying en masse from overdoses. Okay, well, what are they overdosing from? Well, it's primarily fentanyl. Well, how much fentanyl comes from Venezuela to the shores of the United States of America? It's approximately 0%. 0% of the fentanyl that's coming into the U.S. is coming from Venezuela. It primarily comes over the U.S.-Mexico border, but at least as for right now, this could change in the future, Trump isn't willing to directly go to war with or to bomb inside one of our largest trading partners in the world. So instead, we're setting this up as being about drug trafficking. I mean, the boats that we're blowing out of the water in the Caribbean and in the Pacific Ocean right now, they're not even large enough. As Rand Paul was saying, they would have to refuel a couple dozen times just to make it to the shores of the United States. In all likelihood, even some of the boats that aren't just fishermen that were murdering execution style, some of the boats that could have narcotics on it, they're probably going to other areas in the Caribbean or potentially then being shipped out to Europe. So there is no aspect of this as a pretext or a justification for regime change that makes any sense whatsoever. So now we go ahead and we listen to Jeffrey Sachs explain very simply what this is actually about.
This is stomach churning. What is your understanding of the root cause, the true reason the United States has been trying to destabilize Venezuela for the past 20 years?
Well, it's obvious. Venezuela has the world's largest reserves of oil. We're trying to steal them, pure and simple. It's not even complicated. This has nothing to do with narcotics trafficking at all. This is an insult to our intelligence to watch this smirking gangster discuss this way. He's the one, by the way, Lindsey Graham's the one who says, oh, we got to fight in Ukraine because they have $10 trillion of minerals. He's just a simple gangster who works in an organized crime mob called the U.S. government. And the smirk on his face, lady, you don't think we can murder the people we want to murder? Are you so naive? Do I have to sit for an interview on Face the Nation and explain to you we can murder whoever we want? And we can give any explanation that we want? We can say they're narcotics traffickers. By the way, when Obama put on these orders and when Trump followed up on these orders in 2015 and in 2019, it had nothing to do with narcotics trafficking. That's just the excuse of the day. They've been trying to bring down this government for more than 20 years. And they will murder. They will make inland incursions, so-called. It's called an invasion. And they'll do that, and they'll smirk, and he'll laugh, and he'll threaten like a gangster. You better get out of there because we're going to clean this up. And we have the right to do it. We are the United States of America. And where does this get us? It gets us war after war after war. So much for MAGA. So much for peace president. Yeah, come on. This is gangsterism. And
So
it's
the-
in full view. And by the way, please, somebody in the Congress, in the courts, in the United States, in the media, say something about it. This unbelievably vulgar and illegal mobilization of the American military for this ongoing attempt to grab Venezuela's oil.
So the
I mean, as he points out there, to any Trump fans out there, to any MAGA America First types out there, is invading or destabilizing or doing a regime change operation in Venezuela, is that America First? Is that the anti-war president that you supposedly voted for, who now wants to do war with Venezuela? He's threatened war with Mexico. He's threatened war with Panama. He wants to conquer other territories around the world like Greenland. He's bombed inside of Iran. He's helped to bomb inside of Yemen. He's bombed inside of Somalia. I mean, where does this anti-war president, this America First president, come into play? Because it seems like he's probably one of the most aggressive warmongering presidents that we've had in American history. And it's stiff competition that he's up against on that. But they continue here.
president was asked on Friday if he would consult with the Congress before going further. You will not be happy with his answer. I'm sure you know what it is already, but here's what he said. Chris?
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead. Okay?
With that cavalier attitude, A, about human life, B, about the Constitution, C, about federal law, D, about international law, is just reprehensible. I don't remember hearing anything that cavalier, even from George W. Bush right after 9/11. I don't want to compare presidents, but what we have now is a person who believes that might makes right, figuratively and literally.
He believes in murder, and
Yes.
murder from the Oval Office of the United States of America. But more than that, we need to understand this is not about narcotics trafficking, as I said. This is about a coup. This is about regime change. It's about violent regime change so that we can control Venezuela's oil. Now,
Now, if there was any doubt about what he's saying here, that this has nothing to do with drug trafficking, this is more so an ideological project being driven by who are being called the Miami Hawks or the South Florida Hawks, guys like Marco Rubio, as well as being about just jacking their oil and minerals. Well, thankfully, we have some U.S. officials who just say it out loud. So this was a recent 60 Minutes piece here that I want to play for you guys. This is Ambassador James Story. They say he's the last American diplomat at the now closed U.S. Embassy in Venezuela. Let's go ahead and hear him say, I guess not even the quiet part out loud, because it doesn't seem like there's any quiet parts anymore. This is just him saying what the reality of this kind of an operation is.
This is a very bad actor sitting on top of the world's largest known reserves of oil, plus the critical minerals that will fuel the 21st century economy, and he's in bed with our strategic competitors.
Okay, so, I mean, again, they're just saying it. Like, it's not difficult to figure out what's actually going on here, especially when you have reporting like this from behind the scenes that I've talked about. Apparently, Maduro sent this letter to Donald Trump a while ago, and he basically said, look, I'm willing to cut a deal, right? Whether it comes to oil, whether it comes to the minerals, whether it comes to even my economic ties to U.S. adversaries, I'm willing to figure something out as long as it means you don't try to invade or to do regime change or to assassinate me. Let's figure something out. And Trump basically said, no, fuck off. We're going to do the regime change, right? This is an ideological push for this kind of an operation that many of these people have wanted for decades at this point. And again, as he says in this clip, it's very straightforward. He says, Maduro's a bad guy. We don't like him. He's not friendly with us. And he's sitting on a bunch of oil. He's sitting on a bunch of valuable minerals that we're going to need for the future. So we're going to go take them. That's what this is. I mean, as Jeffrey was pointing out, it's just mafioso kind of behavior. It's Donald Trump saying, I am the mafia boss. of the entirety of the Western Hemisphere. And so this is my playground. This is my backyard. We get to have hegemonic control over everybody in the Western Hemisphere, right? If you dare to disobey us, if you dare to try to use your resources for your own people, for your own purposes, instead of for U.S. multinational corporations to profit from, then we are going to come and fuck with you. That's what Trump is saying here. I mean, again, very straightforward. And as David Adler points out here, somehow, the United States of America has found a way to combine two of its greatest foreign policy failures, the Iraq War and the war on drugs, into a single regime change narrative and sell it again to the mainstream media. Now, obviously, I think the media has been doing an abysmal job on covering this and getting to the core of what this is actually about. It has nothing, again, to do with narco trafficking, terrorists, or whatever the hell else Pete Hegseth is throwing out on any given day. It's about the oil. It's about the minerals. It's about the United States installing essentially a CIA puppet government that will do the bidding of the United States. And the mainstream media has utterly failed in covering this. And the other entity that has failed in covering this or pushing back on this is the goddamn Democratic Party. Where are the Democrats on this issue? I've seen stuff from Rand Paul. I've seen a speckle of things on the lower level from some House Democrats. Where is the Democratic leadership? Unfortunately, the reality is that a lot of them just agree with this. They agree with toppling Maduro. And so they're not going to come out and fight on this front. But even from the more left-wing members of Congress that we have, whether it's AOC or whether it's Bernie Sanders, where the fuck are you guys? This needs to be a much bigger deal than it's being made out to be, right? We're about to do a regime change operation, a war with Venezuela, without any sort of congressional approval, without any sort of legal pretense or justification, based on complete lies. I mean, this is even worse than the WMD lies because it's much less believable. It's easy to disprove it. And, we're just marching towards this, just casually. And the Democrats are completely MIA on this, I guess. Now, we also had, as part of the same 60 Minutes piece, Senator Rick Scott from Florida. This is the guy who defrauded Medicare, I believe, for like tens of millions of dollars. And he echoed what Lindsey Graham there said. He said, if I was Maduro, I would head to Russia or China right now. Just directly calling on him to flee the country. He later in this interview was asked, do you think we're going to do an invasion? And he said no, but he said his days are numbered. So I guess they're trying to work something out with, the CIA cutout Machado inside of Venezuela, and they're hoping it can be an internal, regime change operation without needing a direct invasion. But at the same time, when you're doing stuff like this, it's kind of hard to believe that you're not about to do a full-blown war with Venezuela. I mean, this is the latest here just from yesterday on Newsweek. They say the U.S. has deployed B-1B bombers near Venezuela as the USS Gerald Ford closes in. So we have now deployed at the single largest aircraft carrier in the world near the coast of Venezuela. And this is on top of all of these other naval and Air Force assets that we have currently in the region. I mean, dozens and dozens of military assets, thousands of Marines and other U.S. soldiers. I believe it's up to 10,000 service members that are in the Caribbean right now preparing for the buildup for a war. And then we also have reporting like this, that Maduro is saying that they apparently foiled a mercenary plot that was connected to or working with the CIA. And this is after we had reporting that Trump was authorizing the CIA to conduct operations against Maduro in Venezuela. So is this real? I don't know. There's no way for me to independently verify that they actually foiled this plot. But we know from Donald Trump himself, in his own words, that they're greenlighting CIA operations, whatever that means. Maybe it's, fomenting unrest or trying to destabilize on the ground, or whether it means directly trying to assassinate Maduro and then install whatever CIA, cutout that they choose. So we have that aspect of it as well. And then finally, last thing here, as again, part of this big 60 Minutes report on Venezuela, they said that reports suggest that Venezuela's opposition, this woman, Maria Corina Machado, who is again the CIA-backed, sort of replacement puppet that they're hoping will succeed in the ways that Juan Guaido failed in the previous U.S. coup attempt in Venezuela. And they say they have a 100-hour plan with the Trump administration for a peaceful transfer of power. A peaceful transfer of power. They say there's a possibility, perhaps, that the armed forces might split, according to Venezuela-based analyst Phil Gunson. He says there's a possibility they might oppose a new government coming in. You don't say. Venezuela might not be happy about, or there might be internal conflict over the United States government installing a CIA puppet and toppling their government. They might not be happy about that. That might cause some instability. You don't say. I mean, again, so these plans are not up in the air. Like they have plans for what they call, bizarrely here, a peaceful transition of power. What about this is going to be peaceful? There's no peaceful transition that could possibly happen in this situation. But this is real, guys. Like, I would have thought towards the beginning of the Trump administration, if I had to guess, that he was going to get us into a war, I would have said definitely Iran, which we did for at least a couple of weeks, and that didn't end up spiraling into a total and complete regime change war. But I would not have guessed Venezuela because it's so ridiculous, it's so outlandish, and given, we have tried it before, like with Juan Guaido, but we're now straight up deploying military assets off the coast as if we're about to do an amphibious invasion of Venezuela. So again, all of this is completely and totally insane. And again, as Jeffrey Sachs was pointing out there, this has nothing to do with the drug trafficking or Maduro being a narco terrorist or whatever else the fuck they want to say. This is about the oil. This is about Marco Rubio and other Venezuela hawks and South Florida hawks who have an ideological project that they're committed to doing regime change, installing a friendly puppet government, and then stealing the oil and stealing the minerals. That's what this is actually about.
Politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me. Everyone is saying